remember starting to flip through the Bobby Marks article on ESPN, and I know we'll have plenty of time to get into the things for the offseason, but I think a basic question that some people have brought up, and I do kind of want to discuss, is what's going to happen with Jalen Brunson?
Yeah.
Because maybe I'm surprised, and maybe I shouldn't be. I'm surprised by the number of people that I see that don't want him back. Now, I get some of it is because they're like, I don't want him back at that amount of money. Like, we saw that a lot with Dak going into that, right? He's like, I like Dak, but not at this amount of money. And so I wonder if Jalen Brunson is like falling into that category. And then the other thing I continually see is, well, Jalen Brunson is not a number 2. I will certainly concede that to you. I think he's a championship level 3.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I'm just like, I'm out.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, we're waiting on Jason Terry to call us if he does or if he doesn't.
Let's dive into it.
So Jason Terry, for his 8 seasons in Dallas, averaged 16.1 points and 4 assists. Don't you feel like that's more of what Jalen Brunson probably is rather than 20 points a game? He averaged 20 in the playoffs. He averaged 16 in the regular season. He's kind of hitting his prime. Jason Terry was never a number 2 that won a championship, yet he kind of was the number 2 on the championship team. But you had Hall of Famer Jason Kidd, out of his prime, but still a really good player. I guess he's not a Hall of Famer, but a very good player in Shawn Marion, out of his prime, but very good player. In his prime, but not a scoring option, Tyson Chandler. I know the game has changed a lot in the NBA, but I look at Jalen Brunson, and in a weird way, they're very different players. Can be your Jason Terry, but Jason Terry and Dirk was not enough.
So my thought about that is, and this is the only sticking part that I get to, is Brunson from last year to this year, and I realize part of it's because like he was starting, is he went from 12.5 to about 16.5 points. Make one more jump like that, though that is a tough jump. That could get you to 20, and he went from 3.5 assists to 5 assists a game. So part of me is like, could he be 20 points, 6 assists? And like, that's what I get caught up with. I think more than likely, you'll probably split some of those gains in half. I think he'll stop depending on what else they do. I think he'll start operating with the ball a little bit more, and I think he'll end up at 18 and 6 assists or 5.5 assists.
Jason Terry's first year at the Mavs was 12.4 points. His second year was 17.1. His third year was 16.7. His fourth year was 15.5. His sixth year was 19.6, and then he went back down to 16.6. Championship year was 15.8.
So he hit the peak and then plateaued and then had one more big spike and kind of got back to,
and there's a lot of changes, right? From 04-05 to 2010, 2011, he's playing with a rookie in Devin Harris. Devin Harris gets better. Devin Harris gets traded for Jason Kidd, right? I mean, I'm looking at, there's a lot more that goes into it, right? Josh Howard at one point was good. Then at one point, Josh Howard wasn't good. And then at one point, Josh Howard's traded for Caron Butler and Brendan Haywood. Like, there's a lot that goes into what Jason Terry had around him and what his role was on the team. At first, he was the point guard. And look, Mark Cuban let us into the insight. Dirk Nowitzki hated that. He's like, he's not a point guard. We got to do better than this because Jason Terry's more of a scorer than he is a setter up of me. And so they went and traded for Devin Harris, and then they traded for Jason Kidd. And so there's a lot that went into Jason Terry's role as a Dallas Maverick. Doesn't that sound a little bit like Jalen Brunson? Is Jalen Brunson a true point guard? Well, at times, yes. At times, probably here not, because it's going to be Luka's as the point guard, because no matter how good Jalen Brunson is, he'll never be as good as Luka at point guard.
Sure.
So he's going to have to play somewhat of the off-the-ball guy in the clutch for the Dallas Mavericks because Luka's going to have the ball a lot. And I do want the ball out of Luka's hands more, and I do want it in Jalen Brunson's hands a little bit more, but I'd also like another guy that even puts Jalen in a different spot at times.
Now, I wanted to read this off because they went back to back to back. And also, weirdly enough, in an update from Forgiveness Friday, the tennis player that I referenced, she was fined $10,000 by the French Open today for spiking her racket and it going into the crowd. But these texts come in back to back to back. Don't want Jalen Brunson. He's too short. From the 5.75, no Brunson. He can't shoot and is too slow for his size. Then from the 9.40, trade Jalen Brunson for Mitchell Robinson in a bad contract on the Knicks. You're going to trade away Brunson for an...
Are you saying the bad contract is Julius Randle, I assume?
Maybe, but otherwise you're trading for an inferior player and taking a bad contract? Why would you do that?
There has to be more to that text, or is that all the text said?
That is all.
They hold Jalen Brunson in a low regard, lower than what NBA teams see him as.
That is
Jalen Brunson is a good Jalen Brunson. When they come out with the top 100 players in the NBA, ESPN does this. This will be fun to see. When they do that, I wonder if Jalen Brunson will crack the top 50. I think that's right where he'll be around. Is approximately the 50th best player in the NBA. I don't know if he'll be 45. I don't know if he'll be 60, but I think that's where we're going to find Jalen Brunson hanging around going into the 2022-2023 season. Jalen Brunson will be hanging around a top 50 player in the NBA.
Okay. And
so when you say trade him for, not you.
Yeah.
When that person who texted in says trade him for Mitchell Robinson and a bad contract, I would say, are we also getting the New York Knicks first round pick? And I'm not crazy about that, but if we're trading, because their bad contract, if it's not Julius Randle, would be Evan Fournier.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not crazy about that because he can't play defense to save his life. And right now, let's face it, if Luka comes back the same, he can't play defense to save his life at his mentality and body structure and effort level. I know those all kind of go together, and you can change the words up, but Luka can't play defense if he's going to come in this heavy, and he can't play defense if he has the same attitude. He sounds like he wants to change his attitude. I don't know how much he really wants to change his body, because wouldn't it be interesting if we were talking to Jason Terry right now? He got to see a little bit of the Greek Freak change his body because he was there 16 through 18 in Milwaukee. He was there. I believe he was there with Jason Kidd being the coach. So, I mean, I had a lot of fun things to ask Jason Terry on what he thought of different things. And then the other thing, too, is could we see a different evolution of Luka in that he goes from pudgy to lean, where we saw a dude go from super skinny to super ripped in the Greek Freak? I know different, and the Greek Freak came in where he had no nutrition at all. Like he'd never had a smoothie in his life. He barely had any food in his life. And then they're like, hey, we're going to feed you food and give you energy that you've never really had before besides creating it on your own. We're going to give you energy called nutrition.
Yeah.
And so I just wonder if we can get Luka, which I hate that he's playing for his national team, just to be honest.
Because you think he's going to be worn down again and everything like that?
Yes, I do think that he's going to have to play all the minutes, and he's going to be concentrating too much on basketball where he should be concentrating more on his body.